our executive director. Recording is in progress. I am our executive director of students and academic operations here, so work closely with the program team, the advising team, with whom many of you interact daily. I'm joined today by a faculty member who I'm going to introduce to talk a little bit about the internship courses, and we will get going. So, Professor Mike Malloy serves as an adjunct professor, entrepreneur in residence, and former ultimate frisbee coach at Georgetown. Mike began serving as an entrepreneur in residence in 2015, and he first taught his class social entrepreneurship in 2019. Later that year, he was asked to build the Georgetown Startup Interns program from scratch, which has evolved into 3-credit electives for undergrads and grad students enrolled in UNXD 4950 and 7950 Startup Internship Seminar. These courses are offered during the spring, summer, and fall semesters to teach students foundational professional skills while working as interns at startups or growth stage companies. Mike received the 2022 Outstanding Entrepreneurship Faculty Award for his work leading the Georgetown Startup Interns program. This year, Mike launched the new UNXD 7951 Graduate Internship and Professional Development course, which he will share more about. Please join me in welcoming Mike.
Ooh, thanks, Kelly. I appreciate the kind introduction, and I'm excited to be here and share more about the courses with the students and the faculty here. Let me share my screen. And can I get a thumbs up? Can you guys see the slides? All right, great. Here we go. And so we're going to talk through a couple of different internship course options today, and I want to start by just giving some context and background on the Georgetown Entrepreneurship Program. And so the core of the program is focused on the student experience and helping introduce all of you to having an entrepreneurial mindset, as well as supporting alumni entrepreneurs. And many of those alumni entrepreneurs are actually the host companies that host Georgetown students every spring, summer, fall semester. And the third pillar is kind of overall increasing our influence and impact in the DC area entrepreneurial community. And so to give you an overview of the Georgetown Startup Interns program, there are 3 parts of it. The first one is the experiential learning, where students are actually interning at a startup or growth stage company, typically for about 10 hours a week during the school year, fall and spring semesters, and full-time 40 hours during the summer. We do have some cases where students might work full-time if they're taking classes part-time. We can be flexible about that. The second part of the course is the formal learning and the skills workshops. And so later on in the presentation, I'll actually give you an overview of a lot of the topics and different modules that are included in the course. It's really designed to equip all of the students with the foundational professional skills that you need to be successful, that regardless of what your undergrad or grad fields of study are, might not be covered. Things about how to run a meeting and what your personal brand is or ikigai. And then the third part of the program is the leadership coaching and the developmental learning, where each of the students enrolled in UNXD 7950 will be assigned a certified leadership coach to meet with 3 or 4 times throughout the semester to help you develop professionally as well as personal leadership abilities and self-awareness in the workplace and in your relationships. And so what we really built here is a 4-sided marketplace, which if you've heard of a 2-sided marketplace, it's more complex and a lot more fun. And I'm grateful for Kelly's help on one of these sides with the academic departments figuring out how to connect students to startups in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and ultimately trying to facilitate as many transformational connections as we can so that students get amazing career experience so they can make some more informed decisions about where you want to go with your career when you graduate and finish your grad program. And so students intern, as I mentioned, either full-time during the summer or part-time during the semester. And internships can be hosted by startups, growth stage companies, international social enterprises, and they can also be hosted by large companies. And so we'll talk in a minute about UNXD 7951, which we specifically built for a lot of grad students looking to, not intern at a 25-person company, but a 25,000-person company. Well, that's a little bit different what that work environment is like. But one of the key ingredients to this program and how it's been so successful over the past 5 years and able to grow is that students can also bring your own internship. It's not something where you enroll in the class and then, Professor Moore is just going to hand you an internship. The onus is on you to do outreach, research companies, to apply for internships either that we recommend, and we do have a curated list. We also have several sources that you can go and kind of search for internships online, find the ones that are most interesting and appealing to you, apply and ultimately get hired. With the foundational requirement to enroll in one of these classes is that by the end of drop ad, or ideally by the start of the semester in January, you have secured an internship offer letter. And so looking at this Venn diagram here, this kind of explains the two different course options. And I'll start in the middle section, the overlap between the two. Both classes are 3 credit electives. They're offered spring, summer, and fall. As I mentioned, the most important thing is that you get an offer for an internship, but you have to actually be working an internship while taking the class. And since there's more than a month now until the semester starts, and many more months until summer starts, you have an opportunity, to apply, to schedule interviews. Ideally, you get it before the start date of the semester, but ultimately you have until the end of my drop. Bless you. Which is usually about 10 days or so after classes start. You can bring your own internship. There are asynchronous skills workshops that I'll outline a little bit for you. Internships, thanks to COVID, the work world has changed, and there are virtual internships, hybrid, where you're in the office some of the time, as well as fully in-person internships. All three are viable options, and we're pretty flexible. It's kind of up to the employer and what they want, and also what you as the worker want. They can be paid or unpaid as well. Uh, we strongly encourage employers to pay, but not every organization has a budget, and it's also up to the students and kind of what your financial situation is for what you're comfortable doing. And both of these courses, very importantly, are CPT eligible for international students. With and there are, I think I'll talk later about some of the CPT details, and I know Kelly and her team can also help advise students on a case by case basis. Um, it does take at least a week typically to get CPT approval. So like the earlier you get the offer letter and start the process, get the paperwork submitted, the better it will be, because if you're an international student, you can't officially start working until you receive that authorization. So sometimes, in some cases, that has delayed the start date a week or two for students who are a little late submitting the paperwork. So now if we look on the left side of the Venn diagram here, we're talking about UNXD 7950, the Graduate Startup Internship Seminar. This is designed for students working at startups, and basically any company, organization. This could even include a nonprofit that is less than 500 employees. We're going to classify as a startup because of the nature of the team and the people you're working with, and the exposure to wearing several different hats, and not just being one intern in a very large company as with the other class. And so we do have a curated list of startup internships on the website, and I will drop a link now in the chat to our link tree, which has a link to the website as well as the first step there to sign up, which I'll talk about in a minute. The second step, you can see the list of startup internships. You also get a leadership coach as well as virtual startup career fairs, and I'll mention that later. So we've got one in the spring to help find summer internships. On the right side here of the Venn diagram, we have UNXD 7951, the Graduate Internship and Professional Development course. So this is really designed for the students interested in working at larger companies and gaining that career experience. I've taught many international students who are interested in working at Marriott or TikTok or other large brands, and we're happy to do that and provide the skills training and support that you need to be successful both in that internship as well as throughout the rest of your career. Uh, we don't have as much curated lists of internships at super large companies because you can find that a lot easier on the internet. You can Google it, you can go to the Career Center. You can certainly search Handshake as well to find opportunities there. And one difference to note between the two courses is that there isn't the leadership coaching component with 7951, but there are a series of grad program specific professional development events. And we actually have a grad program liaison for each program, sort of a program you're in. If you enroll in the class, there'll be a liaison who helps basically create a hub and spoke model where there's a hub of a lot of core foundational skills that everyone's learning, but then each grad program has some spokes and some specific events and readings and assignments to do based on their field of study. Let me pause there and just see if there are any questions from the students before we continue on with the presentation.
Yes, I have few questions. First, thank you very much for the presentation. Uh, as an international student, if I want to apply this, who do I reach to? Like, I'm from the SCS school. Do I go to my IS advisor? Do I go to the registration section? Because this was never posted, this course on the registration section. So I'm a bit confused about that.
Kelly, you want to help with that one?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a great question. Which academic program are you in currently?
Information technology management.
Okay, yeah. So because these are sort of universal courses, they don't show up in each individual program's list of courses, which is a bummer, to put it
Okay.
candidly. And so my recommendation would be first to check in with your academic program to just talk through your degree plan and make sure that this is a sort of like an approved course. And then from there, they can guide you in the right direction of where to find it. But if you use the registration system, you can search for specific courses. So you can actually put, UNXD 7951 in, and it should pop up. And it is open to graduate students. That's my understanding, that it's open registration. I think we're going to go through this in a couple slides. So, first things first, though, check in with your program, and then you can also search for the course in the registration system.
Okay, thank you. And I have one more question. Sorry to take too much of your time. Um, so in the case uh, for the international student, uh, would you recommend for him to take this course before graduation or take it during the academic years? What do you think would be the best outcome for an
Yeah.
international student?
Let me ask this. Where are you in your program? Like, is this your first semester that you're just finishing? Or how long is your,
Yes.
and
Uh,
how many semesters will the total program be?
so I graduated in 2026 summer.
Okay. So for international students specifically, you are required as part of CBT to complete 2 full semesters, which basically means you couldn't take it in the spring, but you could take it in the fall, or sorry, in the summer or next fall or spring. And so it's basically like they need to complete 2 semesters in the US and then they're eligible for CPT as part of this course. And
Okay.
so I would, I mean, depending on what your plans are for next summer, I think it works really, really well as a summer class. It's the only class typically students are taking because they're working their internship, they're getting the career experience, and then it's one less class you have to take in the rest of the program.
I got it. Thank you.
Yep. And in terms of enrollment and searching as well, if you go into GU Experience and just search UNXD 7950, you can self-enroll. I think now for the spring, it wouldn't make sense for you specifically, but for the other students. And then when enrollment for the fall starts at some point, I don't know the dates off the top of my head, enrollment for the summer usually starts around the same time. So what I really encourage students to do is to add the class to their list on GU Experience, because then I, as the professor, get a notification that, hey, Salar is enrolled in the class. I'm then going to reach out to you and say, hey, how's it going applying for internships? Where are you at in the process? And I do a lot to try to help students work their way through that. I also have a lot of companies in the month or so before the semester starts saying like, hey, I'm looking for an intern. Like, who do you know who's a great candidate and who's looking for one? If you're enrolled in the class and I know you don't have an internship yet, you're the first ones that I recommend, as I know you want to take the class and you need to help kind of getting an internship. So that's, I guess, one piece of advice I would have as well.
Thank you very much, Professor. I got it. Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions before we keep rolling through? All right, I'm going to bounce back a few slides. And so I want to highlight too that one of the really cool components of this course is the community of practice that we build with students from very different grad programs, all learning together and sharing their experiences on discussion boards. So the majority of the assignments are not, blindly or silently submit them to me to grade privately, but they're actually reflections shared on a discussion board where you get to see there might be an IT management student, but there's also an HR management student. And then we have a culture communication technology and maybe an MSFS, Masters of Foreign Service, all in the same class, taking and working relatively to extremely different internships, but still learning from what they're doing. And one of the goals of the course is to identify these connections of both the work you're doing, how does this lead into what you want to do as a career path, what your strengths are, your skill sets. The bottom part of this is super important though as well, because we want to help you identify industries and departments or roles, responsibilities that like you hate doing. And if you can learn that in a 3-month internship instead of 4 years Like if you're not good at Excel and don't want to be building financial models, so hi, if the quicker you can learn that, then you can prevent making decisions about your future career. And you can also learn some of these things by hearing the reflections from other students. Like you might be a student, interning in the product development and like writing code, but there might be somebody else who's a marketing intern and somebody else is an HR intern or business development, like what their experiences are, give you a glimpse into what those career paths could look like. Some, it doesn't sound like for me, some could be really interesting and open up new career pathways that you previously wouldn't have considered. So that's something I've seen several times happen over the past few years and is really cool for students to get that exposure with our community of practice. And so in terms of how to enroll, we talked about this a little bit, and I dropped the Linktree link there in the chat. Uh, Step one is to really sign up. And so we have a specific Airtable form that you can fill out, which I will drop in the chat here as well. Sign up here. And what that does is it shares your resume with companies that are interested in recruiting our talent. And says, raise your hand. Hey, I'm interested. You'll also get periodic updates from me about new internship opportunities as they become available on an ongoing basis. Step two is when you will actually go into GU Experience, as I mentioned earlier, search for UNXD 7950, 7951. And really the division between the two is like, how big of a company are you looking to work at? Is it less than 500 employees? 7950. Is it 500 to 500,000 employees? 7951. And then from there, you're able to look at the internships that we have posted on our website. Internships. There we go. You can apply and then schedule interviews on your own. So like we're not heavily involved or handholding through that interview process. One piece of advice I will give you though is that everyone you communicate with who works at a company is involved in whether or not they offer you a job. And that includes like the scheduler who emails you to say which time works for you to do the interview. Like be polite and thoughtful and respond promptly and spell words correctly and spell the company name correctly and use proper punctuation and grammar. Like those things all weigh in. There's small stuff, but like you can lose a bunch of points before you even get in the room if you don't handle that well. And then the third step here, when you secure an internship, you want to finalize your internship by filling out this form. There we go. That will basically share with me all of the details about your internship. And so this is what you do once you get an offer letter, and it provides some details about the company you'll be working for, the hiring manager, and the things that we need to make sure that it is approved because anybody can enroll in the course, but as I mentioned before the end of drop ad, we want to make sure everybody has an internship and that every internship is also approved by the grad program liaison or department lead such that it aligns with your field of study. So, if you're getting a master's in IT management and you're interning as a line cook at Chipotle, that might not get approved. And that happened, but that's the analogy that it's clearly not aligned with the grad program. I would say 9.5 out of 10 times they are approved. And one thing to make sure they get approved is as you're applying, just email me. Hey, Professor Malloy, look at this position. I'm going to apply. Is this good to enroll in UNXD 7950? And I will look at it and I will typically say yes. I will also loop in Kelly and her colleagues to make sure they're aware of it and it's a good fit as well. Because that way you're applying to something that is going to get approved. And we'll put my email there in the chat as well. And so there are a few different career pathways for Georgetown students, and a lot of students typically go to the investment banking or big consulting route. Our whole goal with this program is to encourage you to make a hard right into startup land and explore and see what that's like working in a small, scrappy team where, when you're young, you can work to learn, and as you get older, you work to earn. And I think it can be so much more valuable to intern at a startup where you're going to get exposed to so much more things, different parts of the business, operations, marketing, sales. Like you're not just going to do your one little niche department thing, but the smaller the team, the more exposure there is to what everyone else is doing. And so we have a variety of resources on the website that you can click on to get different email newsletters about internship opportunities, as well as websites you can research and find internships to apply on. And then there's additional startup internships at several of the links there at the bottom. But I pulled all of this from the apply link, which I put in the chat a couple links ago. And I will also, with Kelly's help, share out these slides afterwards, along with the recording, and you can click on these links from the slides as well. And there's a couple of sample editions, so you can see what the email newsletters look like. But what we're really doing is saying, hey, here's all the places that you can go find a great internship, go forth and be successful, and the amount of effort and time you put into it will impact, results may vary. And so, well, the good news is because it's December 5th today, there's a lot of time still to apply. I think people are interviewing before the holidays. They're definitely looking at resumes and maybe scheduling things the first week of January if people are, or companies are kind of shutting down. We have a Christmas, New Year's on a Wednesday, so like it's 2 weeks of people not really wanting to work. And so I would encourage you over the next few days, like by Monday, hey, look at some of these things, start applying. So that if you want to try to get an interview by the 20th, I think is that Friday before holidays, you're lined up, or at the very least, you'll get it in the queue and then try to get internship interviews the first or second week of January. And then just a little bit more details about how to enroll. Fill out the interest form to share your resume. You can self-enroll and register on GU Experience. Find the internships you want, apply, send your offer letter to me. I'll make sure it looks good. You can also send it earlier when you're applying. And then if you are an international student, I recommend talking to your advisor as soon as possible to let them know, hey, I'm interested in this. I'm planning to submit it. What is all the paperwork and things that I need to do with OGS? Make sure you send it to the right people. I think there's a catch-all OGS email at this point that is the best one to send it to, but CC me on all of those things as well. So again, I want to help support and kind of Sherpa you through the process, make sure you get the authorization you need, so then you can finalize your internship. And next, I'm going to go into the training modules in the course to give you a high-level overview. Before I do that, are there any other questions, comments, concerns from the students here?
So Professor, I just want to ask you this. So I applied directly to the GMU experience where you get the on-campus jobs and stuff, not to the course registration on our login GU login, right?
I am not sure what GMU is. GU experience is like the course registration. So there's two things you need to do. You need to go into GU experience, register for the course before you get the internship, before you even apply. Like if you guys are interested, you can go in today while we're on the call or right after, just add this as a class for the spring semester. Or Solar, I think in your case, because you're still a first semester international student, you need to wait until summer registration opens. So that's
Okay.
one part is getting in the class. The other part is applying to as many internships as you can or you want to find one that will interview you and ultimately offer you the internship before the end of drop ad. Does that answer your question?
Because so in my case, I couldn't find it on the GU experience, so I think that would be one of the reasons I might have to wait for the summer.
You might have to search, like it won't be under ITM or whatever the four letters is there. It will be under UNXD or Universal Experiential Design. You may have to switch the like department or category.
Okay, and I just searched the UNXD and get it on my back in my future planning plan. So
Yep.
you might. Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you.
And so now I want to give just an intro into the kind of the practical professional skills that we're teaching that students are typically learning in undergrad or grad school. And so the semester starts with kind of self-awareness and having everybody do the Clifton Strengths Assessment, which will give you a pretty detailed report of your top 5 out of 34 different strengths. And then you can start to think about, hey, how have I used these in the past and how can I apply them in my current internship and future career? We'll talk a lot about habits and how to set up both professional and personal habits for a healthy lifestyle, as well as what your personal brand is, intern well-being, and Ikigai. If you're not familiar with Ikigai, it's the picture here on the right with the 4 circle Venn diagram of what does the world need, what am I good at, what do I enjoy doing, and what will people pay me to do. The center of that is a real sweet spot for where to go with your career. You can't always optimize all 4 of those, but by understanding that as a framework and a methodology to think through your career path has been really impactful for a lot of our students. And then we'll get into the core professional skills of how to work remotely. So this really, came out of COVID. This wasn't a thing, I think, 4 or 5 years ago that I was like, oh yeah, every intern should definitely know like how to use Zoom and communicate asynchronously on Slack or other things. Like that's actually really important, whether you're on an in-person hybrid or fully remote team. We'll also go over a lot of coaching and training on sending professional emails with a lot of different templates. And I found, especially for international students, it's really helpful to understand the US communication protocols and like what is politically, socially, professionally appropriate in various settings. All students also call my cell phone and leave a voicemail. I want to make sure that everybody knows how to confidently leave a voicemail with your name, phone number, or brief message, and then slowly repeat your name and phone number and say, hope you have an awesome day. Students are required to be able to type at least 60 words a minute. So you'll do a quick quiz, and if you got over 60 words a minute, great. If not, then you'll take a little bit of training throughout the semester. So I think that is something everybody needs to know how to do to be effective in a professional working world. And then we dive real deep into meetings and what they are, how to run them, how to attend them, how to take notes and follow up afterwards. And I have a little picture here that good meetings are like a diamond where they start at one point, they diverge in a variety of topics, and then they converge to actually make decisions and have a clear path forward with assigned action items and due dates. And interns are great people who can get invited to a lot more meetings if they're really good at taking notes and following up afterwards, because sometimes the CEO or other people in the organization need help with that. And then here's one example of the learning module on meetings. So each week, there'll be 1 or 2 modules to go through with a few videos to watch, some required readings, some additional resources that are optional. And here I'll share one in the chat here as well, which is a series of meeting agenda templates in Google Docs that you guys can all bookmark and make copies of for meetings you have. I literally use these every day, meeting with different people for, intro first coffee chats or catching up with a friend, former colleague, or having a staff meeting earlier today or a one-on-one with a direct report. Um, and then each week there'll be a short 5-question quiz designed to just make sure that you've watched the videos and done the readings. And then bi-weekly or every 3 weeks, there's a 1-page reflection paper about what you've learned in the modules, how you can apply it to your current internship, as well as your future career path. Later on in the semester, we get into some relationship building skills around networking and LinkedIn, conducting informational interviews, and learning more about emotional intelligence. And so all the students are required to go to at least one networking event and talk to 2 strangers and follow up with them afterwards. And on LinkedIn, it's making sure you have kind of a foundational profile on there with a small asterisk that some people in some majors or career paths like deliberately don't want to be active on LinkedIn. And this has come up with some of the MSFS foreign service students, and that's okay. We could talk about it on a case-by-case basis if you don't want to post publicly. My goal is to get you using it and seeing how it can be used as an effective tool to thoughtfully grow your network, stay in touch with people, and find career opportunities as well. And then we get into the advanced professional skills around sales, marketing, presentations. And there's a great formula here that career experience equals your tenure, which is the one thing you can't control is how many years tenure you've working places. But this course is going to do a lot to level up your skills, your personal brand, and your executive presence. So how do you show up in a work environment and communicate effectively and be someone who's dependable, reliable, that your team trusts and wants to work with? In your personal brand module, we talk about the fact that your personal brand is actually what everybody says about you when you're not in the room. And how do they view you? Are you a team player? Are you somebody who gets stuff done on time? Are you always late making excuses? So being thoughtful about that and honestly just more self-aware, I think can lead to a lot of positive changes. And then at the end of the semester, we also have some modules for job application support to help you get a full-time job after graduation. The goal of the internship, the goal of this course is to really set you up on a positive career trajectory. And so we'll go over resumes, cover letters, interviewing, additional job board resources for that full-time employment after graduation. And you'll get a snazzy LinkedIn badge saying that you are Georgetown Startup Interns certified. And as I mentioned earlier, there are some CPT processes and paperwork to go through. And I think Kelly and her team and the folks over at OGS all know way more about this than I do, but I'm happy to be CC'd and included on the conversations. My biggest recommendation is just start the process early. Like don't show up the Monday after classes started and be like, hey, my internship starts today. Here's my CPT stuff. No, like give us a heads up. Like even if people are out of office over winter break, you can still email us and like submit the paperwork, make sure it looks good. Talk to your advisors before winter break that, hey, I'm planning to do this. Make sure you have the right forms. And I want to highlight that I took this screenshot right before the webinar started. We're 83 days away from February 26th Startup Career Fair. And we'll do that on Zoom to bring in about 25 different startups looking to hire summer interns. So that's something to mark your calendars for. And I bet I can drop the link to that in the chat as well. Because I think you can already sign up for it. And with that, we'll open it up now for questions. Thanks, everybody. There are no questions. I'm curious if folks want to come off mute or comment in the chat. Like, which of the two classes are you interested in enrolling in? And are you interested in the spring or the summer? Would love to hear, what sounds like a good fit for you.
Professor, just before you wrap up, could you also leave your LinkedIn on the chat?
For sure.
Thank you.
And sounds great. And Solara, can you put your net ID in the chat as well? And that I have it in case you want to email me or any questions. I just know I'll make a note too that I know you're interested for the summer.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody. I appreciate your time. I hope you have a great rest of the week. Good luck with finals and applications for internships and all that good stuff. If there's any questions, comments, anything I can do, please let me know. You can send me an email, and we'll also drop a link to the slides here in the chat, and we'll send them in a follow-up as well. You're welcome, Miranda.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you.
All right. Bye.